The way I explain it differently is if you need, let's say, long-term care.
Yeah.
If you need long-term care, you probably can't afford it. And if you can afford it, you probably don't need it because you could afford to self-insure, as in you could afford the financial burden of maybe going into long-term care earlier than expected. Welcome to How to Retire on Time, the show that answers your retirement questions. We're here to move past the oversimplified advice that you've heard 100 times. Instead, we're going to get into the nitty gritty because the truth is there's no such thing as a perfect investment product or strategy. Heck, there's no such thing as a riskless retirement. That's why it's so important to put together a retirement plan, one that's right for you, that's designed to last longer than you. That's why we do this show. Text your questions to 913-363-1234 and we'll feature them on the show. David, what do we got today?
Hey, Mike, what does it mean to self-insure in retirement?
Yeah, so I talk a lot about self-insure on this show and in my book. And the reason why I think it's funny is because you're not actually an insurance agency. You're not selling yourself an insurance plan. I don't think people fully grasp what insurance actually is. So insurance is the idea of transferring risk to a common entity with the probability that most people won't actually use their insurance plan for the risk that they transferred. So, for example, most people are going to buy term life insurance hoping that they never die. And the few people that do die, they receive a large payout compared to what they put in there. And that's how it works.
Okay.
Okay. So when you think of, let's say, long-term care insurance in today's policies, how they're currently structured, this is asset-based long-term care insurance. What you're doing is you're buying a policy with your cash, with the risk that you've transferred to the insurance company that if you need long-term care, you're going to get a lot of that cash back at a great multiplier. If you were to get sick, typically within the first 10 years, you may receive a better return on your cash premium that you paid in because you got sick earlier. You needed long-term care sooner than expected. But after 10, 12, 15 years, if you don't use long-term care or the policy, you're still going to get a premium. You're still going to get a benefit. But the dollar-for-dollar comparison, if you compare the dollars you put into the policy versus what you would have put into the market or some sort of investment vehicle, maybe a buffered ETF or something like that. It could be anything. Dollar for dollar, there's a good chance that you may have, we can't guarantee performance, but you may have had more money to support your healthcare needs had you just put it in the market. That's the self-insure. You are taking the risk internally as opposed to transferring it to an insurance company where the insurance company believes that you're not going to use it. So if you're sick looking for an insurance policy, they deny you because they don't actually want to pay out the policies. That's not how insurance works. You have to be the exception to the rule for it to make financial sense. You don't buy healthcare insurance hoping that, let's say you pay $1,000 a month on your healthcare premiums, hoping that you're spending or you're getting $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year in medical costs every single year. That's just paid for by the insurance company. Just think about the business model just for a second. Yeah. You pay in $12,000 a year, and they pay out $50,000 a year in medical expenses to all of their policy owners.
They'd go out of business, right?
They'd go out of business.
Yeah.
Insurance only works when most people don't use the policy, that they pay more in than they take out.
Yeah, they don't file any claims.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's no special investment market that the insurance companies are using. Like they're using the markets we all have to invest in. Yeah, they might get better contract deals with options and different ways they can structure things because they have millions of dollars that they can do for certain notes or for certain contingencies or whatever. But the point being is they're not like using some sort of secret methodology, some secret, who's who, whatever investment system. They're still using the markets too. So you have to ask yourself, are you willing to pay the premium to transfer a certain risk to an insurance company, knowing that you probably won't use it in the time that would make financial sense? The way I explain it differently is if you need, let's say, long-term care.
Yeah.
If you need long-term care, you probably can't afford it. And if you can afford it, you probably don't need it. because you could afford to self-insure, as in you could afford the financial burden of maybe going into long-term care earlier than expected. And think about it. I mean, if you go into long-term care in the first 5 years of retirement, you're not looking to travel. You're in long-term care. Your budget, your financials, they changed.
Yeah, what has put people into long-term care? Like they have like memory issues like dementia, or if they've broken a hip,
Yeah,
rehab, what is it?
yeah, great question. A lot of different variations. So it could be temporary, it could be temporary hospice, it could be like you're on your way out. It could be a number of different things. Okay. So basically you can't do two of your daily active living
Oh yeah,
abilities.
ADLs, as they call it,
Yeah.
activities of daily living.
So if you can't, let's say, use the bathroom on your own and you can't eat on your own, great. You would qualify then for long-term care.
Okay.
Or certain, I don't want to just say long-term care. You would qualify for certain health benefits. There's a lot of different policies, different structures and things like that. But overall, that's kind of what you're looking at. Okay. So you have to ask yourself, are you healthy? What risks do you want to take? If you go into a facility like that or whatever it might be, would you rather just pay out of pocket, have more control over it? Or do you want the policy knowing that if it were to happen, it helps shield your portfolio for the surviving spouse from something that could happen?
Right.
But here's where people, a lot of them will misunderstand. Long-term care insurance doesn't cover everything. There's a limited benefit if it's turned on. So it's not like, oh, well, we bought long-term care insurance, and if we have early onset Alzheimer's, that it's just going to take care of everything. Probably not.
All right.
Depends on how much you put in. Depends on what they're going to pay out. Depends on your costs. There's a lot of contractual nuance in these policies that you've got to understand. Now, look, insurance isn't bad. It's just insurance.
Yeah.
It is buying it's transferring risk to an insurance company. I can't say it any more clearly than that.
Lots of people are pooling their money together and they hand it to the insurance company, and then the insurance company will pay. Not everybody, they can't stay in business. They'll just pay. They know the numbers, right? They're actuaries.
Yeah. So I've been doing this for over 10 years, over a decade. I've never actually sold someone a long-term care policy because everyone that wanted one were denied because they were sick. And those who wanted one, I ran an illustration and I compared a very simple portfolio projection and their policy. And they said, well, we're not going to use it at this time. We'll probably use it over here. And so they opted in because they'd already saved enough. They'd opted in for the self-insure route, knowing the risks. We talked about the detriments. We talked about the downside of things. I don't like the fear-mongering, oh, everyone should have something. No, everyone's selling something. Let's define things as they are. Let's do a simple comparative analysis and let people make decisions. People are smart.
Yeah.
If you give people the correct, accurate, objective information, they make good decisions. When you give people partial information and you scare them, they don't always make good decisions.
And so what would that look like? Do we have time to run a really quick little, so let's say they do self-insure, they have some money in the market somewhere, and then someone gets sick, they need either a rehab or they need to go into
you pull money out of the market.
You just pull it out, and that's how you're funding the care you need.
Yeah.
And it may have been...
You can pull money out of the market. Maybe it's like a reservoir situation where you got some buffered ETFs, so they've got growth potential, but no downside risk if you bought the right buffered ETFs. Maybe you bought... there's so many ways you could structure the portfolio. That's kind of what you're tapping into. And let me do one other insurance premium self-insure bit.
Okay.
So insurance is not an investment, okay? But I do know a lot of people that will use insurance. Let's say they're in their 50s, and they will fund an index universal life insurance policy because from 50 to 65 years old, those are their highest income earning years. And if they were to die during that time period, their term life insurance is about to lapse.
Yeah.
And if they were to die over there, they would not be able to save enough to get to retirement, and they would lose too much income to even get to retirement. So there's this kind of double whammy. And so we will structure a policy to where they replace their term life insurance with an indexed universal life insurance policy. They're funny. There's a cash value associated with it, but the cost of insurance could be similar to what their term life is with the death benefit that they want. And then at the moment where they retire, the cash value should be so close to the death benefit, it's called the corridor, that the cost of insurance is now significantly lower than it was at the beginning of the policy. So it bridges the gap. And now you've got something that has reasonable growth potential, tax-free. You can borrow against it tax-free. It's like a Roth alternative. It's not going to grow as much as the Roth IRA will, but it's still a good part of an overall plan that can help bridge the insurance gap, but not have high cost of insurance in perpetuity. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's kind of a bridge. It's like Johnny Depp, and Captain Jack Sparrow. He's going off the Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one. So,
I remember.
So
vaguely,
he's leaving his sinking ship. His income is going down. He's going to retirement, and then he walks right into the dock.
I do remember
It's
that
like
scene.
if the ship were the cost of insurance, you want the cost of insurance going down.
Oh, yeah.
So right when you walk onto the dock, it's very low cost of insurance. It's a cash efficient policy. That's kind of how we would structure that policy for that person, that situation.
Okay.
Now, if you're already retired, you might not need that cost of insurance. So maybe that doesn't make sense to you. Everyone's different. But if you can define insurance correctly, you understand the cost of insurance correctly, then you could start to manipulate policies and structures so that it is financially in your best interest and that there's nothing to hide. You can quantify the comparative analysis between cash value in the market versus the insurance policy versus your holistic view. That's kind of like it's not good or bad. It just is. What is right for you? That is the question that always has to get answered. Hey, thanks for watching this video. Make sure that you like and subscribe first, and then go to www.retireontime.com to grab a copy of my book, How to Retire on Time, take a few courses about retirement, join my newsletter, and so much more. Now, if you want to work with one of our advisors here at Kedrick Wealth who can help you put together a retirement plan that's designed to last longer than you, just click the button, Get Started. Everything we do is intended to help you retire on time. We hope you enjoy, and we'll see you in the next show.